stone aggregates coming in to the dryer, and then down at this end is where you would see the oil then gets injected to it, and this is all spinning around with it in there, mixing everything up as it goes along.
So what are you making here, Derek?
Asphalt.
Really?
We can do hot mix asphalt. That's the traditional asphalt. And more importantly, though, we can also do the warm mix asphalt, which is really where I see the industry going over the next 10 years. I don't believe in 10 years you'll see hot mix asphalt anymore being made, because warm mix gives you the same product quality and it uses much less energy, which of course is the focus going forward for everyone, is to energy conservation, and that's the way to go with it. As you see, the green machine, that's the name they gave this foaming system, which allows us to make the warm mix. And all it really does to make warm mix is injects water into the liquid asphalt, the oil, to create little tiny bubbles all through the oil, which allows you then to get the same viscosity or workability at lower temperatures. It's contra-intuitive, because this industry has always been based upon you use heat to drive out water, and now we're talking about putting water back in something, and it just is not what people would think. How's that going to work? It's what I tell people is you're really not putting water in. What you're putting in is air bubbles. The water, when it hits that oil that's 300 degrees, just boom, becomes water. For 1 ton of material, you use about 6 ounces of water. That's it. That goes in there. It's very, very little water, because really all you're trying to do is create those air voids from the water.
And how many tons a day do you process?
We have done, the highest total we've done so far in one day with this plant was 4,200 tons, and we did that about 2 weeks ago. So you figure 4,200 tons, if we did that all warm mix, you'd be looking at 24,000 ounces. I gotta do my math here. It's not much. It's really.
And you get it from the quarry next door?
20 gallons. Yeah, what they do is the quarry itself is probably got usually about 10 foot of water in the bottom there. So what we do is we'll pump that water up, and it goes through several filters to ensure you clean out any debris that would be in there, and then that's the water that goes through. So we're basically recycling the rainwater that we've had quite a bit of lately, but there's a lot of water. You got the creek that runs beside here, so there's water from that always goes into the quarry, so it's really just reusing the water that's already at the site versus just continuing to pump it back in a circle like it does now. The thing with the new plant is all the wiring is controlled through different channels. What we found with our older plants is the wires were just basically draped all through the plant. Made it very difficult anytime there was an issue to do any electrical repairs, whereas this is all very tightly wound and very easily accessible to do the maintenance when necessary. We tried to keep everything raised as well off the ground, so it makes it much easier for cleaning purposes. What you'll see a lot of older plants, when they were designed, they were only this far, so you could never get under to get stuff cleaned out. We purposely had everything elevated on this plant to make it easier to keep it cleaned up.
Did you help design it?
Yes, we spent about 6 months designing this plant before we even got to the point of then going out and bidding it to the various different manufacturers. And Gencor was the group that came to the table with the most reasonable bid, so that's who we went with, and we've been generally pleased with what they provide. They've lived up to what they said they could do. And
would you mind saying the amount to build this plant?
Generally, this plant was about $5.5 million. The overall project cost was about $6.8 million, and that included relocating some of our crushing equipment, as well as prepping this site and leveling it and getting it to the point where we could install the plant. The plant itself, though, is about 5.5 of the 6.8 million.
How many people work here?
We have, for the asphalt plant itself, we have 6 people. That would be your plant operator, a plant helper or ground person to keep things cleaned up. You have quality control technician. You have a plant foreman who's helping coordinate the daily events going on at the plant. You have a loader operator, and then you also have miscellaneous help from the quarry and others as needed. I foresee us probably adding a second shift at this location as the economy starts to recover, because these guys right now are working, you know, 55, 65 hours a week, and it's just not sustainable to expect that from employees day in and day out. So eventually we're probably going to have a second shift here, so you'll have more employees added.
Where do they pick up an application for employment?
Online is how we do all of our applications now. And if you go to www.PensySupply.com, we have a careers link right on there, and it shows you all the available opportunities at the company, and you can fill out an application right there online, and it goes directly into our human resources department then, and contacts you and brings you in for interview. Paperless. We're trying to do the green thing. This system here, in case everyone's looking at what all this is, this goes back to your dust question. When we pull all of the excess dust out, it runs through this bag house behind here. It's a bunch of little socks, literally, that suck the dust out of the air before it goes out the stack there. And that dust, then there's a screw that runs and takes that dust into this system and stores it in this silo here. And we can either reintroduce some of that dust into the mix from here, or we simply then just drain it from here into a truck and then take it into the quarry and dispose of it. So the dust is all contained in this plant to a point where it's either going back into the mix or it's contained so it can go into a truck that's capped and take it to a quarry, so you'll end up with a mess everywhere, which, as anyone knows, at most facilities, dust is the thing you're always fighting at a facility to keep things clean. We go through the area down here. As you get further this end here, now you're getting into what we call our tank farm. You'll have this tall tank here stores liquid asphalt in it, which is what binds the stone together in a mix, as well as these horizontal tanks behind there also. So we have 3 tanks to store liquid, and that's so that we can meet the various grades of liquid asphalt. You have various grades based on the traffic level that travels on the road. Heavier traveled roads use a much stronger grade oil. And the rural roads, you have a lower grade oil that rejuvenates itself through the sun heat. So they call you have soft oils and hard oils. Guys who do the work, they know as 6422 oil is more of your commodity grade. That's the majority of work's done with 6422 oil. But you also have 7622 oil, which is what you use on a lot of your heavily traveled interstates, like I would say Route 72, Route 422, 81, 83, those types of roads is where you'll be using the 7622 oil. And this here is the foaming system, or the warm mix kit. Really all it is you got water supply coming in, and then there's a high pressure pump that injects that water directly into the same line where the liquid asphalt's going in, and that's what, when those two interact, it basically creates a bunch of little bubbles in that asphalt. We call it foaming the asphalt. And we've actually found that foaming the asphalt provides better workability and compaction out on the job, because it puts a thicker film. It's the same amount of liquid asphalt, but it's a thicker film, which provides better coverage, so it allows the stone to move around easier. And then as soon as you hit that stone with the roller, it releases those bubbles and you got compaction. It's in place. We've seen compaction of 89 to 90% just behind the paver before we even hit it with the roller using the foaming kit. We're still experimenting with it, but we think ultimately what we'll find is we'll probably have, where you may be using 3 to 4 rollers on the job, you may drop back to 2 to 3 rollers and be able to actually remove one of the rollers from the train, because you're getting compaction much easier than you would with the traditional hot mix asphalt.
You're such an environmental guy. You're saving fuel again.
Well, I have 2 daughters. I have my one daughter's actually here, 15-year-old and 11-year-old, so I got to do my part to ensure when they have children, they actually have an environment that's livable. So I'm all for that.
Nice work. Do you mind talking about the noise again?
Yes, this plant, one of the things we looked at was how we could keep the noise at a low level. So there's various controls to keep the noise down, like the burner has what they call a silencer on it. It's a drum around the burner in there that keeps the noise harnessed within the drum itself. There's various springs and so forth throughout the plant that allows it to flex without the noise. All the gearboxes, everything else are contained. When this plant is running, the only way you really hear it running is you don't hear it. You just see the belts moving and the screens moving, but it is extremely quiet compared to the older style plants. And again, that was done because we do have neighbors around us, and plus the employees that work here, it's good for them as well over the long term. I know some of the guys by here at PA that have been through this plant could tell you the difference you see versus the older plant, the noise levels and the dust and so forth far reduced from what in the past we've had. And when we see the warm mix demonstration that I think they're going to start at 11 o'clock, the other big advantage of warm mix is the temperature is instead of 300 to 310 degree material being laid down on the road, you're putting it down at 240 to 260 degrees, and you don't have those smoke and fumes coming up while they're paving. You won't see that when this comes out. And the guys who have paved for years, it's just you always want the mix hot. It's just counterintuitive because the hotter the mix was, the easier it was to work. And now we're saying we're going to lower the temperature, and that a lot of people think, wow, that material is going to be difficult to work, and they're surprised of how much it's no different than hot mix to work it and get.
Well, what happens when it's on the road and it gets those really like 100-degree days and you see all the buckles at the red lights? Is this going to heave more or less? No, this will probably be less because again, you're not heating that oil up as high to start with, so the nature of the oil, when you heat oil up past a certain part, you actually start to deteriorate the life expectancy of that oil. So by lower temperatures, you're not burning out what they call the light ends of the oil, and the light ends are gives it that flexibility. So you're keeping more of the light ends in the oil, so that flexibility is there for a longer duration. Generally, when you see the heaving and so forth at the lights, that's either because the grade of oil should have been higher, or harder oil, because you're getting heavier traffic and trucks that when they stop, it's pushing everything. There's a lot of weight. It's usually either the oil content or type of oil wasn't correct, or the gradation of the stone and so forth probably wasn't the appropriate mix to be putting in that area. The thickness has nothing to do with it?
Generally, no, not the thickness. As you guys all pave, you could probably explain a little bit better what I'm saying there is. It's when you see what the rutting or the pushing of material, it's generally because it wasn't the right material for the area or the intersection or application being used. When you have heavy trucks and a lot of trucks, you want a much sturdier mix than you would on a road that's less traveled. You don't want it as sturdy because you want to allow that material to flex with the elements, the temperatures that occur on the road. When you have heavy traffic and heavy weights, that actually creates the heat you need to keep rejuvenating that oil and allowing the flexibility in it. And you don't get the cracks and the pushing and the rutting and so forth that happens. It's this industry, when I came into it, I thought, well, it's just stone and oil you mix together. How complex can it be? And the more I'm learning about it and the different variables, it's quite amazing how complicated it can get. And they continue to try to innovate and find road materials that'll last longer and longer, because if you can put it down once, that's less times you have guys out there and doing road work that get in the way of everyone trying to get to.
I'm Dino Fiola. I'm the East Area Manager in charge of the aggregates.
I'm Barry Duffy. I'm the President of Pennsy Supply.
I'm Larry Schultz. I'm Vice President of Sales.
Well, what do you guys do here?
Well, we quarry stone, we make asphalt, we make ready mix, and we have construction services. As you can see, we have a paver over here to my left that's going to lay some material from the new asphalt plant. that we have an automated ticketing service so that we can get our customers in and out as quick as possible. They don't have to leave their truck. There's an automatic system that will pick up their order automatically. They have a tag reader, so it puts their order on the computer right away. They get under the silo, get loaded, and then go to a kiosk and pull off a ticket that gets printed right away, and they can be turned around within 5 minutes. So trucking is a very important component to a lot of our customers because that drives the production that they can achieve on any given day. So they don't like to sit and wait at the plant. They like to try and get in and out as fast as they can. And we've tried as best as we can using all available new technologies to achieve that. So we're pretty happy with the outcome. The plant's been online since fall of last year, and we've finished working out the last of the bugs this winter, and we're looking forward to a successful